It's Wednesday, August 3rd, and this is now on HNN.
To always stand with Taiwan.
China is vowing to retaliate after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi met with leaders in Taiwan.
Qualitatively, it's what we expected.
As Japan expands travel to Hawaii, experts say it's a positive sign toward economic recovery.
It's not supposed to be any kind of disaster voyeurism.
Preparing for the worst. I'm Ian Lee with a new warning from scientists about climate change.
Like sand through the hourglass.
All these stories plus a popular soap opera that airs right here on KHNL is on the move. We got the details coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching. This is Now. You got Jonathan and Ashley right here in the HNN Digital Center. Let's get right to today's top story.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has left Taiwan, but China's retaliation is just beginning. Selena Wang reports from Beijing.
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has left Taiwan, but China's retaliation is just getting started. It's already flown dozens of warplanes around Taiwan and is staging military drills all around the island for the next few days. Officials even released a map of where those drills will be happening. And as you can see, they literally encircle the island. It's an extremely provocative move. Some of the areas marked encroach on the island's territorial waters. That means it's within just about 14 miles of Taiwan's shore. Taiwan is calling this a blockade that endangers regional security. It's rerouting vessels to avoid these drills. Now, the White House says that China is following the playbook they expected and is urging Beijing not to escalate the tensions. China for days had been promising strong retaliation, so to save face, we were expecting a strong show of force. But we'll have to watch to see just how far these drills actually go. Because yes, Chinese President Xi Jinping cannot afford to look weak right now, but he also does not want this to escalate into an actual conflict. We also have to remember that this strong reaction from China is also directed for the home audience. Officials have to show that they are defending China against this national humiliation. In fact, on Chinese social media, many said that this reaction didn't even go far enough. This was just a two-day visit, but to Beijing, it was a slap in the face, and it was a challenge to China's sovereignty. Beijing sees Taiwan as a renegade province that must be reunified with the mainland. The key question now under debate is, what did Pelosi's trip actually accomplish? There are concerns that beyond these military drills over the next few days, this could also lead Beijing to, in the long term, even further increase its coercion of Taiwan.
Now, the Senate is expected to vote to ratify NATO membership for Finland and Sweden. For more on this, let's bring in Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent, John Decker. Now, John, you spoke with the Finnish ambassador to the U.S. What did they have to say about the importance of this membership?
That's right. Prior to the vote, which is happening very soon, in fact, it's happening today, I spoke with the Finnish ambassador to the United States, Mikko Hautala. And I asked him about what this means, not only for Finland, but also the pace associated with this vote taking place in the Senate. Let's take a listen. Are you disappointed with the pace in terms of the way that things have gone with our U.S. Congress, with the Senate?
No, I think I'm really happy with the pace because the Senate had the first hearing already in June, even before the accession protocol was signed. And now I know that from both sides of the aisle there is a clear interest in having it ratified as soon as possible. So I'm waiting for the good news.
So what we're expecting, Ashley, is a strong bipartisan vote in the Senate. That is very similar to what happened in the resolution that was voted on in the House concerning this very issue just a few weeks ago. And that would mean that another NATO country has acceded to allowing these two countries to become NATO members. NATO would go from 30 countries to 32 once Finland and Sweden are admitted into NATO membership.
And what is Russia saying about NATO's moves to expand?
They are not pleased. They initially put out a statement saying there would be political and military consequences for this, but that was really just a lot of talk. It was a lot of hot air. There's nothing that they can do about it. 20 out of 30 NATO countries have now signed off on membership for Finland and Sweden. What Russia is most concerned about is putting bases or installations, NATO bases or installations, in either Finland or Sweden, but there are no plans for that just yet.
All right, turning to big headlines coming out of Kansas, where voters there, they rejected a ballot measure that would essentially have given lawmakers there the right to overturn abortion in the state. Was this surprising?
It is surprising given the makeup of Kansas. Kansas is a red state. There are certainly more registered Republicans than Democrats in the state. And this ballot measure was put on the ballot for a primary. But despite all of that, you had very strong turnout for this ballot initiative. And what you had ultimately is that a vast majority of Kansans voting on this ballot issue said that they want to keep abortion legal in the state of Kansas. It has major repercussions not only for the state of Kansas, but also for states nearby in the Midwest that have prohibited abortion. It means that now individuals that are seeking an abortion can travel to get that procedure in the state of Kansas.
Do you think what happened in Kansas is giving us a hint as to what's going to happen in the midterm elections?
That is a great question. It's difficult to extrapolate what happened in Kansas yesterday for the entire country. Democrats will say that their voters are energized over the abortion issue. That's what I heard today when I was at the White House press briefing from the White House press secretary. But, the election, the midterm election, even though it's a little over 3 months away, it's still a long way off. I mean, a lot can happen between now and then. And we know that the primary issue that's motivating most voters this election cycle is the issue of inflation, high gas prices, high prices at the grocery store. That being said, the abortion issue is also a very important issue to many voters, and certainly it was important in Kansas when you had this ballot measure passing by such a large margin.
And lastly, John, we know that Senator Joe Manchin is now supporting the Democrats' healthcare and climate package, but everyone's wondering where Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema stands. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, that's the big question. And the reason that it's so important is because this legislation is being voted upon ultimately under the reconciliation package process. And what that simply means is that Democrats, to pass it, would simply need a simple majority, just 50 votes, plus a breaking the tie by Vice President Kamala Harris. Right now, they're at 49, now that Joe Manchin has said he supports it. The big question is, where is the 50th senator, Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona? We'll know soon because the Senate is going on its recess at the end of this week. There will be a vote on this bill by the end of this week. So Kyrsten Sinema, who's keeping her vote close to the vest, so to speak, Ashley will soon let us know how she's going to vote on this legislation.
All right, Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent John Decker. Thanks for keeping us up to date, John.
Thank you.
Well, we're just 10 days away from the primary election here in the Aloha State. Our Casey Lund joins us now with more on what officials are doing to make sure those votes are counted smoothly.
The elections office told me this morning we've gotten around 107,000 ballots in so far statewide. So good news. Still want to encourage people to get those in. We're here in the Senate chambers, and you see those cages locked up with a very secure wire clasp. Those are the ballots that have already come in. So much work is done by the state elections office, and we're grateful that it is, but a lot of the work that they do is also done by volunteers. And I want to introduce one to you. Laura Nakasone is with me. Laura, thank you for being with me. I know you were trying to figure out exactly how long you've been doing this. If you had to estimate.
I think the 90s, I think.
So a while, a good while.
Oh, yes, quite a while.
You tell me a little bit about your role, not only on election night, but we're starting 10 days out, right?
Well, actually, we attend a meeting first, an orientation meeting to give us the background on what we're going to be doing, etc. And then when we report the first day, whatever it happens to be, our jobs basically are to open the ballots. So we're taking the secrecy sleeve out of the mail-in, envelope.
Yeah.
And It has to have a signature. They do all that ahead of us, yeah?
I just want to ask you really quickly, because we're almost out of time. What makes you want to do this, and why do you feel it's important?
Well, I've always thought it was important that, people vote and don't complain. If you don't vote, you have no right to complain about who's in office, So I figure, okay, if I dislike someone or I'm not really in favor of a certain person, then I will vote for whomever I think would be best in that office.
Yeah.
And then if anything goes wrong or I'm dissatisfied, then, at least I voted.
At least you made your voice heard.
Yes, and so for me, it's important that people vote. And then volunteering to help like this, it's just something that, I was able to do.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I'm a retired teacher, so while I was teaching, I could still do it because Election Day was always a holiday for us, So
Well,
it worked out.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what you do. Thank you for your service to our state as a teacher as well. So we appreciate you and the State Elections Office for showing us around. A reminder to get those ballots in, drop them in the mail. It's an easy way to do it. Guys, for now, I'll send things back to you.
The State Department of Health today is reporting 21 additional coronavirus deaths and 3,689 new cases in the past 7 days. That compares to 4,075 cases and 23 additional deaths in the previous report. The state's COVID figures don't include positive at-home tests, so the real numbers are really likely much higher.
Before the pandemic, Japanese visitors made up about $2.5 billion of the state's tourism revenue. Now, Japan is dropping travel restrictions and more flights are being added to Hawaii. Experts say this is a positive step toward economic recovery. Jolani Martinez has more.
Japan recently started lifting COVID restrictions, allowing more people to travel to Hawaii. But Japanese arrivals are a bit slower than what economists forecasted.
I mean, this is good news, and qualitatively, it's what we expected. Whether we hit the kinds of numbers that we were forecasting is yet to be seen.
Economist Carl Bonham says in July, about 850,000 people flew into Hawaii. About 30,000 of those passengers were from Japan, making up 4% of the total. Before COVID, Japanese visitors made up nearly 20% of arrivals. Bonham says economic uncertainty and the surging value of the U.S. dollar against Japanese yen could be causing pushback.
They're going to have to spend quite a bit more for what they used to versus what they used to spend for a typical Hawaii vacation.
More routes are now available for Eastern international travelers. Japan Airlines resumed service to Kona. Hawaiian Airlines also restarted daily service from Haneda to Honolulu. They'll still fly Narita to Honolulu as well. Bonham says that's an indication that the demand is there.
This is kind of important because as we go into the fall and into 2023, we expect to see a softening of demand for travel from U.S. visitors as they confront higher costs.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Nonstop Travel.
After being sidelined for 2.5 years, they're more than ready to go. And, our phones are ringing off the hook for New Year's.
Going the other direction, Hawaii visitors to Japan will see fewer restrictions, but vacations are still heavily restricted. Unless you're traveling on business or visiting a relative, tourists must travel with a tour group on a set itinerary. At Nonstop Travel, they've got about 800 people signed up to fly up there these next 4 months. But the managing director says visas are required.
We're hoping that it drops, but for now it hasn't, so we're just chugging along and getting those applications out.
The Hawaii Tourism Authority says Japan is holding off on easing travel restrictions for foreign visitors until the end of the year due to a 7th COVID wave. But they're not expected to add new rules. Jolani Martinez, Hawaii News Now.
Time for unraveling your traveling. And on that note of Japan visitors, I was just checking airfare prices. So if those individual restrictions drop by the end of the year or towards the end of the year, I was looking to Zip Airways has round-trip fares for under 500
Wow.
bucks. Yep, to Tokyo.
Direct?
Direct,
Amazing.
nonstop. All right, let's see what else is happening in the world of travel. Here's some fun tips and tricks for you. This is new to the Raleigh-Durham terminal there, Terminal 2 there at that international airport. Check out these lockers. Yeah, they're not for any like stuff or anything or luggage. They're for food. They're being called ghost kitchens or mobile food halls there at that airport. What happens is there's a number of kitchens actually working behind the screen. You put your order in at a kiosk on the side or scan a QR code and you can order right off your phone. The workers in those kitchens behind the lockers make your food, put it in the locker, let you know which locker your food is going to. You go and retrieve it and boom. Just a human-free interaction of getting food there in the airport. Of course, this all comes on the heels of the pandemic where people want to space out their travel, literally like making social distance space as much as possible. So I thought that was pretty handy. That tip is coming to us from the travel website, The Points Guy today.
I do like, belling up to a bar, an airport bar during a layover.
Yeah,
and that human interaction.
The food can be hit or miss, though, my
Exactly.
friend. It's very rare that you get a good airport airline meal.
Well, this story is pretty crazy. A hungry traveler may have just paid for the most expensive McDonald's breakfast ever. So the passenger traveling from Indonesia to Australia is being fined nearly $1,900 for leaving 2 undeclared egg and beef sausage McMuffins and a ham croissant in their luggage. So a biosecurity dog sniffed out the sandwiches. And this is why Australia has strict policies on the importation of food products in its effort to keep foot and mouth disease out of the country. This is after an outbreak in Indonesia, and there's lots of Australian traffic back and forth to Indonesia. The passenger received the hefty fine after failing to disclose that they had the meat products. So shame on them, they knew it. And while foot and mouth disease is relatively harmless to humans, it causes painful blisters and lesions on the mouths and feet of such cattle, sheep, pigs, goats, camels, and it stops them from eating and causes severe lameness and even sometimes death in some cases.
So I know the script didn't say it, and I went Googling around and I couldn't find it. Was it in his check bag or carry-on? Either one would be a total mess in my version of traveling, right? Because, I mean, the grease stains and smell alone would be like way too much to ever want to use my socks or anything again.
Right. If you're checking in an Egg McMuffin, you must really want an Egg McMuffin.
You got issues. You got issues.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, you guys, let's take you outside somewhere beautiful, all the way over there on the East Coast. This is Miami. Yeah, looking beautiful there. Just check the temperature. 86 degrees there in Florida on that gorgeous day they're seeing. 82 degrees here, but we have some chances of some thunderstorms out there. Here's Guy Hoggy with that update.
So today, the thunderstorm threat is highest for Maui and the Big Island. Then that thunderstorm threat eases, and we'll see afternoon showers pop up on Thursday and Friday, again, mainly for leeward and interior spots. And with those light winds, going to be a little bit sticky. And then things level off, more comfortable conditions due in for the weekend.
Well, as much of the globe continues to be ravaged by severe weather events, there's this team of international scientists that says the world needs to start preparing for what's known as a climate endgame. Here's Ian Lee to explain.
The effects of climate change can be seen all around, from raging wildfires to catastrophic flooding. So far, the conversation has primarily been how to prevent it from getting worse.
Half of humanity is in the danger zone from floods, droughts, extreme storms, and wildfires. No nation is immune.
But now a team of international experts led by Cambridge University says we should be prepared for failure.
Right now, I think we're being naive. We're not looking at the worst case scenarios at all, really.
Researchers warn about what they call the 4 horsemen of the climate endgame: famine, extreme weather, conflict, and disease spread by insects. Scientists are urging world leaders to investigate possible outcomes ranging from a loss of 10% of the global population to eventual human extinction.
The ultimate purpose of this area of study, it's not supposed to be any kind of disaster voyeurism. It's supposed to be about understanding to prevent the worst case.
A worst case climate scientists say we should be ready for if all else fails. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
All right, let's see what else the internet is abuzz about today. Like sand through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives. And there's big news regarding that soap opera. Listen up, KHNL fans. Yeah, it's on the move. NBC announced that the long-running daytime soap will be moving exclusively to the Peacock streaming service starting September 12th. The series has aired for more than 14,000 episodes on NBC, stretching back to its 1965 premiere. The network says the day's move to streaming service is being made to better reflect how viewers are watching the show, and which I sort of find hard to believe.
Yeah.
Because there's so many,
Kupuna.
senior viewers that probably don't have that streaming service, but maybe we can help them out and get them hooked up. I hope so, because people love their stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
These daily dramas are really big. And so this is all happening on September 12th. It's going to be replaced by an daily news program called NBC News Daily that's going to replace that time slot there on KHNL and NBC.
How long has Days been on the air?
Since 1965.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I like looking back at this archive video.
Yeah.
I was surprised at the clips they chose to send us too. They're very dramatic clips there. We got a kiss, hospital room, coma scene.
Right.
All the soap opera greats.
But time on Days of Our Lives goes so slowly.
Yeah, it's like sand through an hourglass.
Well, Warner Brothers said it will not release its new Batgirl movie starring Leslie Grace in the title role. Now, the company said Grace, the star of In the Heights, is an incredibly talented actress, and the decision is not a reflection of her performance. Now, Warner Brothers said deciding not to release the film reflects its leadership's strategic shift regarding the DC Universe and HBO Max. Principal photography was already completed, and the film was in post-production, and the film's budget had grown from $75 million to $90 million. The movie was set for release on HBO Max later this year. The company also announced it's scrapping Scooby Holiday Haunt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cutting a lot. And, I mean, the last Batman movie was just So I can see why they were a little picky there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Let's get to our good news now.
Yes.
We got Jeannie Moe standing by with a not-so-average bear. Here's that.
It seems bears are everywhere these days. Folks have front row seats shooting home videos of bear antics on their lawn. But who expects a bear to be so well-mannered he paws at the doorbell, then, getting no response, gives up in a huff? Literally. It happened at 3:30 in the morning. Greenville County, South Carolina resident Wendy Watson woke up later that morning and noticed a couple of damaged bird feeders. So she checked her doorbell cam.
I think I might have screamed a little like, oh my gosh.
The Daily Mail dubbed the bear Ringy the Pooh, though paws aren't as effective as fingers. Did it go ding-dong, or did he miss it?
It did not go ding-dong.
But he did leave his mark.
He put his nose on the glass.
He was doing like this and put his
Right.
nose on and left a nose print?
He sure did.
A writer on Twitter asked, why would a bear ring your doorbell, and got loads of responses. Someone joked he was making a food delivery. Uber Eats. But we prefer to think the manners displayed by the bear Wendy now calls Boo-Boo can best be explained by Yogi Bear's famous boast.
I'm smarter than the average bear!
But instead of, as Yogi pronounces it, a picnic basket, all this guy got was some bird feed. Jeannie Moe, CNN, New York.
Aw.
Oh, yeah.
It was so close to that picnic basket. All right, guys, that's going to do it for This Is Now on this Wednesday. Ashley back first at 4 on KHNL. You don't want to miss it. Lots of news updates to get to coming into our newsroom. Have a good afternoon.
See ya.